Your organisation runs training courses for your staff and customers. Only problem is it's time-consuming, inconvenient and costly. Take a leaf out of our book. The School of Hard Knock Knocks uses the online training platform by YZ, and our team and customers love it. It's simple to use, supports every media format, audio, video, text, and looks great on desktops, tablets and mobiles. And for a limited time, quote SHKK when you arrange a demo and get 10% off your first year's plan. YZ helps us deliver comedy courses around the world. Imagine what it could do for your organisation. YZ, that's WYZED.com. YZ, online learning made simple. You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
That's a bucket list.
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
Julia Clarke has achieved much in her 8 years of stand-up comedy. A two-time winner of South Australia Raw Comedy and Edinburgh Fringe Festival performer, Julia is also one of the nicest stand-up comedians on the Adelaide comedy scene. In this School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast episode, Julia and I discuss getting in trouble with the cops, burning celluloid, and advice for up-and-coming comedians. And if you'd like to get more advice from Julia, then the good news is that she's the guest comedian at the March 3 to 7 stand-up comedy course in Adelaide. This is the course for new comedians or bucket list tickers. Tickets are available now at www.schoolofhardknockknocks.com. And now, here's the very lovely Julia Clarke.
Childhood, right? Because both of my parents are cops. Yeah, which means I spent my entire childhood getting in trouble with the police. Also means I've got a genetic craving for donuts and clubbing. Yeah, but like in my household, it's really weird, right? Instead of having like macaroni pictures of owls that we did on our fridge and like little finger paintings, there's actually like a newspaper cutout of a picture of my mum next to the headline, "Bodies too decomposed to determine gender." That's not a normal childhood. So obviously from that I've become a little bit overweight, right? And you know that you're getting more overweight with the same amount of makeup that you've always used. Doesn't seem to quite cover everything anymore. and you get on your Wii Fit and before it even weighs you it says ow. That actually happened, right? And for the tour down, when the tour down under was here, I decided I'd try and get fit and I bought a bike. I got on the bike and not once, not twice, but 3 times I got on the bike and the tyre burst by me just sitting on it, right? Then I realised bike riding's for wankers. It's not really, right? It's not really. I wore bike shorts, right, way past the appropriate age at high school. Probably has something to do with how I am now, right? And but then, yeah, my partner pays me out about that, but he rides a bike and he wears bike shorts now. You know? So, whatever. Yeah. That wasn't planned and didn't work very well. So.
Good evening, Julia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's good evening in Melbourne. Sorry, it is good afternoon in Adelaide because you're 30 minutes behind. Still enjoying the afternoon.
Still living in the past. It's good. It's good back here.
Not as bad as Perth though. You're not 2 hours. Well, an hour and a half for you, 2 hours for us.
Yeah. Exactly.
Time zones. Funny.
Yes.
Yes, I've not really. Honestly, for the last 16 years actually, I've lived in China, and they have one time zone for the whole country from left to right, east to west, top to bottom, one time zone.
That's handy. Yeah, that's handy.
Yeah, except when you're going to work at in the middle of the night. That's
oh my God, not handy.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting, but maybe tiring. I think I like sleep, so.
True. It's like a country run by Queenslanders who are afraid of daylight savings. Terrifying.
Anyway,
we digress. Thank you very much for your time today, Julia. We're here to talk about your career in comedy and how and learn a little bit more of that career and some of the secrets and how you got to where you did and some of the awards you've won. Because you're going to be our guest comedian for our March 3 to 7 stand-up comedy course in Adelaide.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be a part of that. So, I'm really keen to get involved. And I don't know how many secrets I have, but I can definitely tell my story and what's worked for me and what definitely hasn't, which I can definitely talk about. Yeah.
Learning from other people's mistakes is the best way to learn.
Yes.
Well, I greatly thank you for sharing some of those things. Well, let's get started anyway. So now you've got to the South Australian Raw final for South Australia, not once, but twice, 2011 and 2012.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it means that I can't compete a third time, which sucks a little bit. If you get to 2 state finals, you can't actually compete again.
Oh.
So that's one thing I learnt then. So my success hindered me.
Give someone else a go, Julia. Come on, don't hog the microphone.
I would always hog a microphone now.
Yeah, you would. Well, how did you get, so that was 2011. How much comedy had you done prior to that date?
I'd only done like 2 gigs. I'd really only just kicked off what was going to be a really great time. And I was really lucky. I started my comedy, and you know one in the industry and you know one that did comedy in Adelaide. I just used to love watching the Doug Anthony All-Stars on repeat on video from the big gig. It was a very lame thing for me to be doing, and I had no idea why I loved it so much. And I always watched the big gig at 6 a.m. on the Comedy Channel when it was repeated in 1990, in the early 90s, when I didn't understand anything. I used to get up at 6 a.m. and for a 10-year-old to get up at 6 a.m., they're pretty dedicated to it. I just loved it for so many years, and I just one day asked myself why, and I think I came to the conclusion that I just wanted to do what they do and get on stage and have that energy. And what I do is very different to what the Anthony All-Stars does, but I think that's really what kicked it off and what started me doing it. Yeah, and I knew no one doing comedy, and I did Tim Ferguson's comedy writing course, and I actually, I was still too scared to tell anyone I was doing comedy just in case I didn't go through with it. And I actually lied to everybody and said I was going on a work trip to Melbourne, but I actually went over there with a close friend who know what I was doing, and we went and did Tim Ferguson's course, which gave me heaps of confidence.
Fantastic.
And obviously I met one of my idols and reasons that I wanted to do comedy, and I wrote my first set.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's fantastic. Tim was one of our early interviewees on this podcast. So
he's amazing.
He is, and I was also a big fan. Actually, I was a bit older. I think I must be a bit older than you, but I saw him at the Doug Anthony All-Stars, or DAS, perform at my university. I think it was the first year I was there. It was about 94, I think, roughly. Anyway, they came in and they did it in the cafeteria. They performed in the cafeteria, and it was awesome.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I am so jealous. I always wanted to see them perform, and like when I really loved them, they definitely split up, and we had no idea what had happened, and now we do. But I've been so lucky to see them since when they reformed with Flacco. So, really so excited that I got to do that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's Doug Anthony All-Stars. If you're listening to this podcast and you have no idea what Julia and I are talking about, do Google Doug Anthony All-Stars. I think it's 4 separate words, DAAS. But make sure there's no children around, like 10-year-olds, because there's a lot of swearing.
It was totally inappropriate. I should not have been watching that one.
No, but I imagine a 10-year-old would have laughed heavily at the song "I Fuck Dogs," which was Paul McDermott's one of his big ones.
Yeah, piece de resistance. I have no idea why I was allowed to listen to that, but I did.
Well, your parents were probably sleeping, were they? Or
yeah,
or maybe they were outside, because I understand both your parents were cops. Yeah,
both my parents are cops, and they're still cops, and my sister is now a cop.
Still cops?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I grew up with that, and that's all I knew, and that was the first joke I ever wrote. So my first ever joke, because you can hear it here, ladies and gentlemen, was both my parents are cops, which means I spent my entire childhood getting in trouble with the police.
Classic.
It's horrible.
Yeah, no, that's a good one and very logical. Comedies, isn't it? Yeah, Tim Ferguson talks about how humour is obvious.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
In a way, but it catches you by surprise.
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah, you're setting it up for one thing and you sort of surprise them with the other, and it's that act of surprise that everyone just, breaks their tension.
Yeah, absolutely. So you wrote that joke. Now, where did you first perform that joke?
At the Rhino Room. So when I was doing comedy in 2010, I think I did my first ever gig, late 2010. It was with Craig Egan was running really Adelaide Comedy, was one of the only gigs around, and How You Get On was booking a Thursday night. So I knew weeks in advance what night that I was going to be on, and I had 5 minutes, and that's the joke I led with. And luckily that gig went well. I don't quite remember it. It's a bit of a blur, but I don't think I would have kept going if it didn't. So it was just, I think I hadn't had the best time. The best time ever.
Did you bring friends along for that gig as well?
I brought 2 friends, my sister and another friend who came along, who was really supportive of me doing comedy, and he thought I'd do a really good job. So he was sort of there to see if he was right. It was fun. And I think the first thing I remember getting on stage is that I couldn't see anything, and that was the thing I didn't expect. And the lights just blow you away. So you just have to say what you'd planned, and it worked. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And do you remember your first paid gig?
I do. It was a gig with a few other female comics at Mount Barker in Adelaide. So it was a cinema gig, I believe, and we had to do 10 minutes each, and we got paid $50. I'm like, this is a sweet paycheck for 10 minutes of work. But at the time, I'd never really done 10 minutes in a row. We'd only really started off with 5 minutes, and I was perfecting that. So it was a real challenge, and I was really nervous. But it went fine, and I just had a good time. And I just think every gig that went well, and not all of them did, but every gig that went well made me feel like this is just the funnest thing you could possibly ever do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And not only perform in Australia, you decided, I think it was about 2011, that you're doing pretty well in Australia. Time to let the Scots hear your police jokes.
Definitely.
You went to Edinburgh.
I went to Edinburgh. It was best. It was such a big learning experience, and I, to be honest, I didn't really want to do it. I thought it was really cocky for me to go over and do an Edinburgh Fringe run when I've only done a few gigs here in Adelaide, and that was another friend who convinced me to do it with her, Morven Smith, who now runs some rooms in Melbourne, and we did it together. We did a show called Good, and we just used it in the PBH Free Fringe, and we used it as an opportunity to build our sets and learn, and that's really all it was. So it's not like we went over there and took Edinburgh by storm. I'm really terrible at flyering, and I think that's the only way you can make yourself successful in Edinburgh.
Right.
I just feel really annoying when I flyer anyone, so I sort of stand there and passively try to hand people things and get really offended when they don't want them. And then I remember buying a box of chocolates. So I'd give out chocolates to people to then take my flyer, but then I felt deceptive and ended up just giving away chocolates.
Oh my God.
I'm the worst. I suck at flyering. So it was fun. We just called everyone that was in the pub at the time that we were doing it into the room when the show started, and that seemed to work okay, and it gave me a real opportunity to develop my comedy. So yeah, it was just the craziest place in the world for that month that it's on.
Yeah, I understand. Look, it's a hard business because stand-up comedy is an art form, and not generally people who do. I'm not making a very big stereotype generalization here, but artists and business people, there's a big divide between the two. So yeah, but stand-up comedians have to go out there and market and build social media platforms and make videos. And it's I can understand completely.
It's a struggle. Yeah, it's a struggle. And when you first started, you've been doing it probably about 6 months, and you don't know what you're doing, if you're being honest with yourself. And you go over there and it's just a whirlwind, and not being around creative people really before starting comedy, it was just overwhelming. But it's such a great experience to see early on and to see what that world is like, even from the smallest perspective, just meeting all the people that I met, talking to the people I spoke to, seeing the shows I got to see was so beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And you must have had one of the best looking flyers because you're a visual artist.
Oh, no, it was horrible. No, it wasn't horrible.
Was
we
it?
had someone we had someone do it for us because I didn't know anything at that point. We were just trying to get it all together. And again, I was a bit reluctant to do Edinburgh Fringe because I was just so nervous about the fact that I was doing it. So Morven really organised that, and she got it all done for us. So that was really lucky. But at the time, I'd actually had an art exhibition at the Adelaide Fringe in 2011 as well.
Yeah, awesome.
That was all images of Australian comedians. So they're portraits of comedians in Australia. And Dom Romeo, who lives in Sydney, he used to be a writer for comedy writer, a journalist. He actually wrote little bits and pieces about each comic that I had painted, and he came down for that exhibition too. It was one of the best nights of my life. I had Tom Gleeson open it. I was very lucky. That was a pure luck thing. Yep. But yeah, my whole world went into comedy that year. It was a bit weird now that I look back at it.
Wow, you're one of
calm down.
Wow, that's amazing. Like you and Undo are both of you are at the crossroads of painting, art being an artistic and being a comedian. It's a very rare combo.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if I could put myself in the same boat as Undo. He's insane in his talent, and he's been in the Archibald, and his show that he does where he's doing some incredible interviews is amazing. Yeah. But yeah, it's a very odd place to be because I just love that creativity, and I don't really know how to place it sometimes. I don't know how to make them work together. I've tried, and I haven't quite resolved it, but I'd love to put the two together.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Get Tim again. Go do his course again and see if he can brainstorm some kind of stage art live performance. Yeah, it's very Doug Anthony All-Stars, isn't it? Yeah. Sort of painting someone,
isn't it?
And then throwing them off the stage.
That's a good idea. So I did that in my Fringe show, Vincent Van Lol. So I did one called Vincent Van Lol. Obviously, that's the joke.
Okay,
yeah. And I started off and I did a whole show about sort of the wank of the art scene and just a lot of my material anyway. And ended the show with a live painting on stage.
You did? Awesome.
Yeah, and it worked well, but it was always really awkward at the end because I sort of farewelled the show and said, well, that's it for the show. Now I'm going to paint for 10 minutes and you'll see what I've painted. And everyone seemed to really enjoy it and stuck around, but I never quite figured out how to make that seamless. So something definitely I could revisit for sure.
There we go. Well, there you go. Quite a skill to have. Now, I went into your personal life. I dug deep, and there was something that jumped out, and I thought I've got to bring this up with Julia. And it was that you worked at Hoyt's, which is a movie cinema here in Australia, and you were a projectionist. Is that the correct pronunciation? Yeah, projectionist. Yep. Sounds like someone who likes to shout, but no, you're actually the person who is in the back room, actually very quiet. Ironically, so you make the movies play and is it one reel or do you have to switch over at one point in time?
Yeah, it was great because I did it at the golden time where everything was still 35mm film, so it wasn't digital, which it is today. So that's why I sort of no longer have that role. Right. So I was very lucky to be able to work with that, and it was all. All the films came in on separate reels, so about 6 reels, and we'd have to spend a considerable amount of time winding them physically, sticky taping them together or splicing them, what you call it, but it was essentially sticky taping them together and rolling them into a big reel, which would then run through the projector. It's incredible the amount of things can go wrong in this manual process. Like it was nuts. The projectors, were about 30 years old. If you left something like a slight bit of this tape that you used to splice film, it could burn. And when the burn is projected, it could be a tiny burn, but when the burn's projected onto the screen, it looks like a full-blown fire. Then it wraps around and falls off the projector in a certain way that you can't put it back together and you just have to cancel the session for the night. So it's
my God.
It can be really stressful, but when it goes right, you can have a good nap. So it's great.
Oh, yes, I vividly remember watching a movie. I think it was Number 5 or whatever that movie was called, but it had a little robot in it called Number 5. And the pre-reel, they had some cartoons beforehand, went on fire on the screen. So we're watching it. It stopped, and then the middle just flamed up and went to white because the whole thing burnt out. I still remember that vividly, thinking it was all part of the show, but obviously someone screwed up.
No, someone upstairs would be panicking, probably sobbing. It's a really stressful thing to happen because it ruins the entire film, and those films cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per each. You know, they're highly protected, especially if you've got like a Harry Potter film that hasn't come out yet. You've got the whole reel upstairs. It's a very valuable piece of film. And it does do that because the lamp is so hot to project it over. So if it gets stuck and it's stuck there for more than a few, a millisecond, it will burn through. So it's pretty cool to watch, to be honest.
It is. Have you written any jokes about your time as a projectionist?
I haven't, but I should. I think that's a really good idea.
Because you do get to see the audience. Can you peer through and see what's happening in the back row and that kind of stuff?
You can. Oh, you can't really see the back row. It's too
close.
Too much of an angle, but you can see what's going on. There's some interesting stuff happens, and I mean, I remember once Eat, Pray, Love, I think, was on, and I hate that movie. I hate that movie so hard. I can't even tell you why, but I just hate it. And all these really entitled middle-aged women were in there, like they're just people that, when you're in customer service, the ones you dread, and people that work in customer service will know what I'm talking about. But they all watch this movie, I think, to find themselves. I'm not sure. And the film wrapped, so that thing happened where it stopped and it started burning it, and it all started falling off the plate that it rolls around on. And when that happens, it's a real nightmare and a real problem, and you have to actually cut out a big, huge section of film to be able to put it back together. Yeah. And it takes ages, and we have to rind it back on manually. And I had to do that, and they were so angry. And then I finally got the film back running, but I had to cut out a big, significant portion of damaged film. And apparently, and I can't confirm this because I haven't watched it, it actually cut out the bit that was supposed to reveal the meaning of life at the end. And I was so satisfied that they wouldn't get it. I'm a bad person, really, is what I'm trying to say. I haven't, that obviously is not a joke. I have not thought about that since it happened until you asked.
Oh, well, there you go. I look forward to your next comedy set in Adelaide.
Good inspiration. Yeah.
Wow. Because I imagine Eat, Pray, Love is about tolerance and, being calm, and that's probably what those women needed more than anything. But you,
they were furious. They were furious.
Oh dear. So obviously you didn't get any comedy ideas from that moment, but where do you get your comedy ideas from?
I get them from all over the place, and I've still struggled to figure this out, to be honest. And I find that the strangest thing is it's something I do so often, but I don't really know how I do it. So, and I find that really interesting. And I love hearing other people talk about where they get their comedy from. Sometimes it's really hard to articulate, but I get it from the things I see around me. I get it from absurd situations that I've been in. I do a lot of self-depreciation sort of jokes because I'm bigger, like if I'm totally honest about that. And when you get on stage, that's the first thing people are thinking about, and to acknowledge it straight up is really breaking that tension immediately. So I think doing that immediately is it really gets the audience going, and they know that I'm not too serious about myself and they can laugh with me. So that's a big thing that I start with. I talk about absurdness in politics without being political in the slightest. So I don't like to be too political. I don't like to offside people. I know that's probably a bit lame, but that's just how I am. So again, that's a really good question and really tricky to answer, and I can't really articulate where it comes from.
Yeah, no worries. I did like one gag you did talk about some junk food. I don't know what the premise was, but it was about eating junk food and pretzels. Cheezels. Cheezels. Cheezels are the Australian food that's got a hole in it. Is that right? And you put your fingers, in Australia, we put our fingers through it, I think all over the the country. I don't think you can buy this maybe in New Zealand, but I doubt it's available anywhere else in the world. And you said that it's a good indicator that you're getting too fat because you can't fit your fingers in the holes anymore.
Yeah, and people love listening to that one because they could all relate to doing that when they were a kid. Yeah. And then when I went to Edinburgh, that was one of the only jokes I had at the time because I was so inexperienced. And I likened it to hula hoops over in the UK, and so everyone got it over there as well. And then I was able to make an extra joke on that. I was like, so when I say hula hoops, I thought they meant like a 2.5 metre hula hoop, and I got quite offended. So I could add that to my set, and it worked really well. Yep. So it's just adding. It's not only just keeping the jokes that you already have that work, it's adding to them when you see that there's something that can be added. That's the other thing that I like to do, and then they evolve into something else completely sometimes. Well,
that's good advice. So when you don't stop at the punchline of one joke, see if you can take it further, the same premise or the same concept or the same theme, and go another step in that. That's awesome. What other advice would you give to stand-up comics? Because the people that listen to this podcast, they're new in the business. They might have never done stand-up comedy before, but it's a bit of a bucket list tick sort of option, or they have been told by their friends, "You're really funny, you should try stand-up," or they may have done the circuit and done that, the open mic, and they're out there evenings dredging, waiting to do their 5 minutes. What advice would you give them?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I was given, and I still think about every time I go on stage, is that I think the audience is always going to judge me. Or I think that's the thing, that if I have a bad gig and I've undermined my own confidence, that few seconds when you first get up, if the audience isn't confident that you know what you're doing and they can let go and relax, if they're not confident that they can relax at your set, then they're not going to laugh because they're going to be too nervous for you, and then you're going to project that onto them. So I always go on and go, even if I don't know what I'm doing here, if I'm trying new comedy or if I'm just not feeling this room, I've just got to pretend that I'm confident, because if they think that I'm confident, they're going to relax and probably be more likely to laugh at what I say. And so I constantly bring myself back to that. I had a gig recently where there was holes in the audience, and sometimes your jokes can fall flat in that. And I sort of had a bit of nervousness before I went on. I was doing something I hadn't done before, and I really had to remind myself, just if I'm confident, the audience doesn't actually know what I'm going to say. They don't know if I'm messing it up. No. If I'm confident through it, then they will work through it with me. And that's always helped.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know if it'll help others, but it'll help me.
That's a good one, because, often when we teach, because of course you'll be joining us in early March in Adelaide for the School of Hard Knock Knocks course, and you'll be able to tell them face to face. But if you're listening to this podcast now, students, there's a lot of cases where the students who are learning comedy, they get up there, they do their practice, like it may even be the graduation, and they come down, they go, "Oh man, I forgot that other joke. I forgot the other joke." And I'm just say to them, no one knows. No one gets a set list of what jokes you're going to, and they're not ticking them off as you go through them. They have no idea that you missed out, a whole section. You rocked, everyone laughed, and that's the most important thing. Yeah, exactly. And if the audience feels immediately when you get up there, if you convey that confidence in the first few seconds, they're going to feel comfortable to laugh at you, or laugh with you, because they know that. They feel like you know what you're doing. So even if you don't, you've got to fake it till you make it. And that's like a really true statement I've found in my experience. And I think that's one of the biggest ones that really helped me get over that barrier. It helps me do pauses better. It helps me not rush what I'm talking about, because I'm like, well, they don't know that I'm supposed to be, saying it like this or doing this way or whatever. They just go, you're the person in control, really. And you just have to appreciate that they're there and they're there to see you, and you've just got to bring it. Yeah, that's right. And then, of course, stand-up comedy being stand-up comedy, there is no fixed rules as such. You've got someone like Luke McGregor who gets up on stage and just comes across as highly neurotic and nervous from the moment first step on the stage. You go, this guy's going to collapse, and yet that becomes funny as well. So it's a good reminder that there is no fixed rules of comedy. That people break it all the time. Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many things that people do that I could never do, and I feel like those character
those character kind of sets that, say, Luke McGregor is probably an extension of himself for sure. But, on stage it's probably exaggerated, for his, I just don't know if I could necessarily do that kind of acting. Like, I'm so in awe of that because I think that's a real skill, and that everyone's got different abilities, and you've just got to find what you're good at and focus on it and really hone in on it and not worry what other people are doing and appreciate others and learn from everybody, but really take home what rings true to you, because not everything's going to ring true to everybody.
That's right. Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic. Well, now comedy coming up. We are about to start the Adelaide Fringe Festival. Melbourne Comedy Festival's around the corner. Then Sydney and New Zealand has one as well. And Laughs of Lonnie, LOL. Chris Franklin's starting that between Adelaide and Melbourne festivals. What have you got going in the next couple of months, say 6 months?
Yeah, you made that sound really exciting. So I'm going to make that. I wish I could make my next plan sound really exciting. I am currently just building on new material at the moment, and just going to really enjoy doing spots at the festivals where I can, just so I can get that up so I can build for a new show next year. That's what I'm hoping to do. I've been really busy with work, because I work as well. So I'm just in the process of really building up a new show and new material and getting your experience up and learning from everybody else around you. So I'm enjoying that process at the moment, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the Fringe, especially being in Adelaide. I'm really lucky to have, obviously Perth Fringe is happening at the moment, but being in Adelaide, I'm really surrounded by those amazing festivals. So I'm really keen to learn from them and, get up and practice my material and start to really develop it. So next year I can bring a really amazing show together, maybe one that includes art in a better way. But that's my focus at the moment. So I've got lots of little spots coming up, including the School of Hard Knocks. Really excited about doing all the little spots I'm doing around the place at the moment.
Awesome. And if someone wants to book you for an event, do a set, for a sports club or a private party or I don't know, RSL club, I don't know, all these different venues, how do they get in contact with you? Yeah,
I've got a public Facebook page so people can do that for that exact reason, because a lot of inquiries come through there. But also I've got a Facebook page called Julia Clarke Creative, which also encompasses my art and my comedy, as well as my Instagram, which is a bit of both. It's a business Instagram page called Julia Goolia, JOOLIAH, GOOLIAH. And I think there might be some profiles on the Adelaide Comedy website as well. So, it's fun.
Yeah, so a few different ways of getting in contact with you then.
Sure.
That is awesome. Well, Julia, I thank you very much for your time. It's been a wonderful chat. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, and you'll be joined March 3 to 7. You're going to come in on March the 4th, and we'll finalise those dates and times. But you'll be joined by another Adelaide celebrity comedian. I like to think of him as Jerry Massey, also known as Mad Dog Malcolm.
He's so great.
Fantastic.
Yes. He is amazing. If anyone you could learn from, he's one of the best. He's so entertaining, and that's what he's about, is entertainment. Yep. So I'm really excited that you've got him on board.
Yeah, and particularly one of Australia's best character actors, because we've lost a few over. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he is. That's really, really exciting for everyone on that course. So awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Julia, thanks very much for sharing some of the knowledge of your journey and how you got into comedy and where it took you, and some of definitely the advice is very, very practical for up-and-coming comedians.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much for having me and having me on board. I'm really excited about getting involved.
No worries. Look forward to seeing you March 3 to 7 in Adelaide.
Excellent. See you then.
See ya.